You wake up every morning with the same gnawing feeling, that quiet voice whispering you were meant for more. You scroll through your phone, watching others live the extraordinary life you keep promising yourself you'll build tomorrow. You've read the books, watched the videos, made the plans, yet here you are, still waiting for that breakthrough moment that never seems to come. But what if I told you that the very thing you're searching for has been hidden in plain sight for over 3,000 years? What if the greatest minds in history, from Thomas Edison to Andrew Carnegie, discovered their fortune not in some modern strategy, but in the ancient wisdom of a king whose name still echoes through eternity? Tonight, you're not just going to learn another success formula. You're going to undergo a complete transformation of identity. You're going to stop being someone who dreams about greatness and become someone who commands it. The 7 pillars I'm about to reveal to you are not mere concepts to understand. They are the very foundation stones upon which every lasting empire, every enduring fortune, every life of true significance has been built. This is not motivation. This is revelation. This is not theory. This is the blueprint that separates those who wish from those who achieve. The same wisdom that guided Solomon to become the wealthiest and wisest ruler in history is about to reshape everything you thought you knew about success. But here's what most people will never understand. These principles demand more than your attention. They demand your complete commitment to becoming a different person than the one who started watching this video. Are you ready for that level of transformation? If you're serious about this journey, if you're ready to stop playing small and start living like the person you were truly meant to become, then subscribe to this channel right now. Because what you're about to discover will either change everything or it will change nothing. The choice, as always, is entirely yours. Introduction to Solomon's legacy. How many nights have you stared at the ceiling, wrestling with the weight of unrealized potential? How many mornings have you awakened with that familiar ache, knowing deep in your soul that you were born for something greater than the life you're currently living? You feel it, don't you? That restless energy that whispers you're capable of extraordinary things, yet somehow you remain trapped in the ordinary. Tonight, I'm going to share with you something that will shatter every excuse you've ever made for mediocrity. This isn't another motivational speech designed to make you feel good for a moment. This is a roadmap to transformation that has been hidden in plain sight for over 3,000 years. Picture this. Nearly 3 millennia ago, a young king inherited a throne and was granted one wish by the divine. He could have asked for anything. Riches beyond measure, military might to crush his enemies, a life of endless pleasure. Instead, he asked for wisdom. That choice transformed him into the wealthiest, most powerful, and most revered ruler in human history. His name was Solomon, and the principles he discovered didn't die with him. Think of a massive oak tree, its roots buried so deep in the earth that no storm can topple it. The principles Solomon uncovered are like those roots. They don't change with fashion or technology. They don't become obsolete with time. They are as relevant today as they were when the pyramids were young, and they will be just as powerful when your great-grandchildren walk this earth. Here's what will transform your understanding forever. Every giant of industry, every titan of success you've ever admired, discovered these same principles. Thomas Edison didn't stumble upon his thousands of inventions by accident. Andrew Carnegie didn't build his steel empire through luck. Henry Ford didn't revolutionize transportation by chance. They tapped into these ancient laws of success, often without even realizing it. But here's where most people make their fatal mistake. They look at these principles as religious concepts confined to dusty books and ancient traditions. They couldn't be more wrong. These are universal laws, as scientific and predictable as gravity itself. They work regardless of your beliefs, your background, or your current circumstances. The moment you understand this truth, everything changes. You stop seeing success as something that happens to other people. You stop believing that extraordinary achievement requires extraordinary luck. You realize that the same forces that elevated Solomon to legendary status are available to you right now, in this very moment. Consider the turning point that awaits you. Every successful person throughout history faced this same crossroads. The choice between remaining a student of circumstances or becoming a master of destiny. The decision to either continue drifting through life hoping for a breakthrough or to seize control using principles that have never failed when properly applied. Your transformation begins with a simple recognition. These aren't just ancient words written by long-dead kings. They are living principles, breathing with power, waiting for someone bold enough to apply them with complete dedication. When you align your daily actions with these timeless laws, the universe itself begins to conspire in your favor. The 7 pillars I'm about to reveal to you have built every lasting fortune, every enduring legacy, every life of true significance. They've elevated ordinary men and women to heights they never dreamed possible. They've turned failures into triumphs, dreams into realities, and potential into power. But understand this clearly. Knowledge without application is merely entertainment. These principles demand more than your intellectual understanding. They require your complete commitment to becoming a fundamentally different person than the one listening to these words right now. I've spent decades studying the minds of the most successful individuals who ever lived. I've analyzed their habits, dissected their thinking patterns, and discovered the invisible threads that connect every great achievement. What I found will astound you. Without exception, every single one of them operated according to these 7 fundamental principles, whether they knew it or not. You see, success isn't random. It isn't based on luck, connections, or circumstances beyond your control. Success is the inevitable result of aligning your thoughts, words, and actions with immutable laws that govern human achievement. These laws are as dependable as mathematics, as predictable as sunrise. The tragedy is that most people live their entire lives never discovering these principles. They struggle and strain, working harder instead of smarter, fighting against the very forces that could elevate them to greatness. They remain trapped in cycles of frustration and unfulfilled potential, never realizing that the key to their liberation has been available all along. But you're different. The very fact that you're here, seeking this knowledge, proves that something deep within your soul refuses to accept mediocrity. That restless energy you feel isn't dissatisfaction, it's destiny calling. Tonight, you stand at the threshold of transformation. The same wisdom that guided Solomon to greatness is about to reshape everything you thought you knew about success, about life, about your own capabilities. Are you ready to step through that threshold and claim the extraordinary life that has been waiting for you all along? Pillar 1, wisdom, the foundation of success. You've watched them, haven't you? Those people who seem to effortlessly make the right decisions at the right moments. They speak with quiet confidence, move with purpose, and somehow always seem to know exactly what to do. Meanwhile, you second-guess yourself, wrestle with choices that should be simple, and wonder why clarity feels so elusive. The difference isn't intelligence, it isn't education, it isn't even experience. The difference is wisdom. Here's a truth that will revolutionize your understanding. Wisdom is not knowledge. Knowledge is collecting facts. Wisdom is knowing what to do with those facts. Knowledge fills your mind with information. Wisdom transforms information into insight, insight into understanding, and understanding into right action. Imagine standing before 2 doors. Behind one lies temporary pleasure that will ultimately destroy you. Behind the other lies temporary difficulty that will ultimately elevate you. Knowledge might tell you what lies behind each door, but only wisdom gives you the strength to choose correctly, especially when every emotion in your body is screaming for the wrong choice. Consider the story of a brilliant engineer who developed a revolutionary invention. His knowledge was vast, his technical skills unmatched. But when investors approached him with an offer, he lacked the wisdom to recognize their true intentions. Within months, they had stolen his invention, patented it themselves, and made millions while leaving him with nothing. Knowledge without wisdom is like a powerful engine without a steering wheel. It has tremendous force, but no direction. This is where your transformation begins. You must stop pursuing knowledge as an end in itself and start cultivating wisdom as the foundation of every decision you make. Wisdom doesn't come from accumulating more information. It comes from learning to see clearly, to distinguish between what appears to be true and what is actually true. The ancient king understood this principle better than anyone. When offered anything his heart desired, he chose wisdom over wealth, power, or pleasure. That single choice multiplied everything else he touched. His wisdom attracted the right advisors, revealed profitable opportunities, and protected him from countless unseen dangers. The wealth, power, and success that followed were merely the natural consequences of wise decisions consistently applied. But here's what most people never grasp. Wisdom isn't something you're born with or without. It's something you develop through deliberate practice. Every day, you have opportunities to choose wisdom over impulse, understanding over assumption, long-term benefit over short-term gratification. Each time you make the wise choice, you strengthen that capacity within yourself. The first discipline of wisdom is learning to be comfortable with not knowing. Foolish people pretend to have answers they don't possess. Wise people ask better questions. They investigate before they invest. They listen more than they speak. They test their assumptions against reality rather than defending them with emotion. The second discipline is learning from other people's experiences instead of insisting on making every mistake yourself. Find mentors who have achieved what you want to achieve. Study their decisions, not just their successes. Understand their failures, their recoveries, their turning points. Their wisdom, accumulated over decades, can compress your learning curve from years to months. The third discipline is daily reflection. Set aside time each evening to examine your choices from that day. What decisions served you well? What choices moved you closer to your goals? Where did emotion override reason? Where did you act from fear instead of wisdom? This isn't self-criticism. This is wisdom cultivation. The fourth discipline is reading. Not just any reading, but reading that challenges your thinking and expands your understanding. The greatest minds in history have left their wisdom in books, waiting for someone serious enough to claim it. When you read for wisdom rather than entertainment, every page becomes a conversation with greatness. Here's the turning point that changes everything. The moment you begin to prioritize wisdom over everything else, you join an elite group of individuals who shape reality instead of merely reacting to it. You stop being a victim of circumstances and become an architect of destiny. But understand this clearly. Wisdom often requires you to do the opposite of what feels natural. It demands that you delay gratification, face uncomfortable truths, and make choices that others will question. Wise people are often misunderstood by those who mistake motion for progress and busyness for productivity. Your commitment to wisdom must be absolute, not because it guarantees immediate results, but because it guarantees right results. Every truly successful person throughout history built their achievements on this foundation. Without wisdom, every other skill becomes dangerous. With wisdom, every other skill becomes powerful. The path forward is clear. Stop collecting information and start cultivating discernment. Stop seeking easy answers and start asking better questions. Stop following the crowd and start following principles that have guided the greatest achievers throughout history. Wisdom is waiting for you, but it won't come to you. You must pursue it with the same intensity that others pursue money, recognition, or pleasure. When you make this choice, when you commit to this foundation, everything else in your life begins to align with possibilities you never imagined were within your reach. Pillar 2, discipline, the force behind destiny. There's a war being fought inside you every single day. On one side stands your highest aspirations, your deepest dreams, the person you know you could become. On the other side lurk your impulses, your comfort zones, your excuses, and your fears. The winner of this war isn't determined by your intentions or your potential. It's determined by your discipline. You feel it, don't you? That gap between who you are and who you could be. That space between your dreams and your daily reality. You've made promises to yourself that you've broken. You've started projects you've abandoned, you've set goals you've forgotten, and each time you tell yourself it will be different next time. But without discipline, next time becomes never time. Here's the truth that will liberate you from this cycle forever. Discipline isn't about punishment or deprivation. Discipline is the invisible bridge between intention and achievement. It's the force that transforms wishful thinking into concrete results. It's the difference between people who dream about success and people who create it. Picture a mighty river carving through solid rock over thousands of years. The water doesn't attack the stone with violence or force. It simply flows consistently, persistently, drop by drop, until it has created a canyon. This is the power of discipline. Not dramatic gestures or heroic efforts, but consistent action aligned with purpose. Thomas Edison understood this principle better than perhaps anyone in history. While others saw his inventions as flashes of genius, he knew the truth. Genius was 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. His laboratory records reveal the discipline behind the legend. He worked methodically, systematically, relentlessly. Every day at the same time, following the same routines, pursuing the same objectives with unwavering consistency. Henry Ford applied this same principle to revolutionize manufacturing. His success wasn't built on occasional bursts of brilliance, but on disciplined systems that produced consistent results. He understood that extraordinary achievement comes from ordinary actions performed with extraordinary consistency. But here's where most people misunderstand discipline completely. They think it means forcing yourself to do things you hate. They imagine it as a grim existence of constant sacrifice and joyless effort. This couldn't be further from the truth. True discipline is alignment. It's organizing your daily actions around your deepest values and highest aspirations. When your actions align with your purpose, discipline stops feeling like sacrifice and starts feeling like destiny. You're no longer fighting against yourself. You're flowing with the current of your own deeper nature. The effort is still there, but it's joyful effort, purposeful effort, effort that energizes rather than depletes. The first step in building this kind of discipline is clarity. You cannot be disciplined about vague intentions or unclear objectives. Your goals must be specific, your purpose must be crystal clear, and your vision must be so compelling that it pulls you forward even when motivation fails. The second step is starting small. Discipline is a muscle that grows stronger with use. If you try to transform your entire life overnight, you'll overwhelm that muscle and fail. Instead, choose one small habit that aligns with your larger purpose and commit to it completely. Master that before adding anything else. The third step is consistency over intensity. It's better to take small actions every single day than to take massive actions sporadically. A person who reads 10 pages every day will absorb more knowledge in a year than someone who reads entire books occasionally. The compound effect of consistent small actions creates results that seem miraculous to those who don't understand the principle. The fourth step is tracking your progress. What gets measured gets managed. Keep a simple record of your disciplined actions. This serves two purposes. First, it makes your progress visible, which motivates you to continue. Second, it makes your failures obvious, which motivates you to recommit. Here's the turning point that changes everything. The moment you realize that discipline isn't about restriction, it's about freedom. Undisciplined people are slaves to their impulses, their emotions, their circumstances. They react instead of respond. They drift instead of direct. They hope instead of create. Disciplined people have liberated themselves from these invisible chains. They've discovered that the temporary discomfort of discipline weighs ounces, while the permanent discomfort of regret weighs tons. They've learned that discipline today creates options tomorrow, while indulgence today eliminates options tomorrow. But understand this clearly. Building discipline requires you to disappoint people who expect you to remain as you are. Friends may question your new routines. Family members may resist your changing priorities. Society will pressure you to conform to patterns of mediocrity. Your discipline must be stronger than their expectations. The commitment you make to discipline must be non-negotiable. Not because the actions themselves are sacred, but because your word to yourself is sacred. Every time you keep a commitment to yourself, you strengthen your self-respect and your confidence. Every time you break that commitment, you weaken both. The path forward requires courage. The courage to choose long-term benefit over short-term pleasure. The courage to act on your commitments even when you don't feel like it. The courage to maintain your standards even when no one is watching. Discipline is the price of freedom. It's the investment that pays dividends for the rest of your life. When you master this force, when you harness its power in service of your highest aspirations, you join the ranks of those who shape their own destiny rather than surrender to circumstances. Your discipline today determines your destiny tomorrow. The question isn't whether you'll face challenges. The question is whether you'll meet them with the strength that comes from consistent right action or the weakness that comes from sporadic good intentions. Pillar 3, prudence, the shield of the wise. How many times have you acted too quickly and regretted it later? How many opportunities have you missed because you failed to see what was really happening beneath the surface? How many relationships have you damaged? Deals have you lost? Chances have you squandered because you spoke when you should have listened, moved when you should have waited, trusted when you should have verified? You're not alone in this struggle. The graveyard of failed dreams is filled with brilliant people who possessed every advantage except one. They lacked prudence. They had vision without caution, ambition without wisdom, courage without discernment, and their lack of prudence became the invisible destroyer of everything they worked to build. Prudence is your shield against the unseen dangers that destroy the unprepared. It's the quality that allows you to see around corners, to anticipate consequences before they manifest, to protect what you've built while continuing to grow. Without prudence, every other skill becomes a liability waiting to explode. Think of a master chess player contemplating their next move. They don't just see the immediate consequences of moving a piece. They see 3, 4, 5 moves ahead. They consider not only what they want to accomplish, but what their opponent might do in response. They weigh not just the potential gains, but the possible losses. This is prudence in action. The ancient merchants who built vast trading empires understood this principle intimately. Before investing in any venture, they would study the political climate, investigate their partners' backgrounds, analyze market conditions, and always keep reserves for unexpected challenges. They succeeded not because they took the biggest risks, but because they took the smartest risks. But here's what most people misunderstand about prudence. They confuse it with timidity or excessive caution. They think prudent people are fearful people who miss opportunities because they're too afraid to act. This is completely wrong. Prudent people take more meaningful action because they take better action. They move when movement serves them and wait when waiting serves them. True prudence is strategic intelligence applied to real-world situations. It's the ability to gather information before making decisions, to test assumptions before betting everything on them, to verify claims before accepting them as truth. It's asking the right questions before problems arise rather than scrambling for answers after disaster strikes. The first aspect of prudence is learning to pause before reacting. In a world that rewards instant responses and immediate action, this pause gives you an enormous advantage. While others are rushing into situations they don't fully understand, you're taking time to see clearly, think deeply, and choose wisely. The second aspect is developing multiple sources of information before making important decisions. Prudent people don't rely on single opinions or isolated data points. They seek diverse perspectives, cross-reference their sources, and look for patterns that others miss. They understand that the most dangerous mistakes come from acting on incomplete information. The third aspect is always having contingency plans. Prudent people hope for the best but prepare for challenges. They don't expect everything to go wrong, but they're ready to respond effectively when something does. This preparation doesn't make them pessimistic, it makes them resilient. The fourth aspect is understanding timing. There's a season for every action, a moment when conditions align for maximum effectiveness. Prudent people have developed the patience to wait for the right moment and the wisdom to recognize it when it arrives. They don't force timing, they use timing. Here's the story that illustrates this principle perfectly. Two entrepreneurs received identical opportunities to invest in promising startups. The first, eager to seize what appeared to be a golden opportunity, invested immediately without thorough investigation. The second, practicing prudence, spent 2 weeks researching the company's financials, interviewing the founders, and consulting with industry experts. The first entrepreneur discovered too late that the company was hiding massive debts and incompetent management. He lost everything. The second entrepreneur, armed with complete information, negotiated better terms and became part of a venture that multiplied his investment tenfold. The difference wasn't luck, it was prudence. But here's the turning point that transforms how you approach every situation. Prudence isn't about avoiding all risks. It's about taking calculated risks based on complete information. It's about acting with confidence because you've done the homework that others skip. When you develop true prudence, you stop being a victim of circumstances you didn't see coming. You stop falling for schemes that seem too good to be true. You stop trusting people who haven't earned your trust. You stop making commitments you can't keep and agreements you don't understand. The commitment to prudence requires you to slow down in a world that's constantly speeding up. It requires you to think when others are just reacting. It requires you to investigate when others are assuming. It requires you to plan when others are just hoping. This doesn't make you paranoid or overly cautious. It makes you prepared. It makes you wise. It makes you someone who builds lasting success instead of temporary victories that crumble when tested. The practical application of prudence begins with asking better questions. Before accepting any opportunity, ask what could go wrong. Before trusting any person, ask what they have to gain from your trust. Before making any commitment, ask what you're really agreeing to and what it will cost you if circumstances change. The path of prudence requires patience in an impatient world. It requires investigation in a world that rewards quick decisions. It requires thinking in a world that celebrates instant action. But this path leads to outcomes that justify every moment of careful consideration. Your future depends not just on your ability to seize opportunities, but on your ability to evaluate them correctly before you act. Prudence is the shield that protects everything else you build. Without it, success becomes temporary, achievements become fragile, and progress becomes reversible. The choice is before you. Will you continue to act on impulse and incomplete information, or will you develop the prudence that protects and multiplies everything you touch? The wise person chooses protection through preparation. The foolish person learns through painful experience. Which will you be? Pillar 4. Power of words. Listen to yourself speak for just one day. Really listen. Notice the words you choose when describing your challenges, your goals, your relationships, your future. Pay attention to the language you use when talking to yourself in the quiet moments of your mind. What you'll discover will shock you. The very words you're using to describe your life are actively creating the life you're living. You think words are just sounds that disappear into the air the moment you speak them. You believe that the internal dialogue running through your mind all day long is harmless background noise. You couldn't be more wrong. Words are the most powerful creative force in human existence. They shape your beliefs, program your subconscious, influence others, and literally construct the reality you experience. Here's a truth that will revolutionize everything you think you know about communication. Words don't just describe reality, words create reality. When you speak, you're not just sharing information, you're casting spells, setting forces in motion, planting seeds that will grow into the circumstances of your future. Think of your mind as the most sophisticated computer ever created. Your words are the programming language. Every statement you make, every description you give, every prediction you voice is code being written into your mental software. That software then runs automatically, guiding your actions, shaping your decisions, and attracting experiences that match the programming. When you say, "I can't afford it," you program your mind to stop looking for ways to afford it. When you say, "I'm not good with money," you program yourself to make poor financial decisions. When you say, "I always fail at relationships," you program yourself to sabotage connections before they can succeed. Your words become your prophecies, and your prophecies become your reality. Consider the entrepreneur who built a business empire, starting with nothing but an idea and absolute conviction in the power of his words. When investors rejected him, he didn't say, "Nobody believes in my vision." He said, "I haven't found the right investors yet." When customers hesitated, he didn't say, "People don't want my product." He said, "I need to communicate the value more clearly." His words kept his mind focused on solutions instead of problems. possibilities instead of limitations. Within 3 years, his consistent positive language had programmed his subconscious to notice opportunities that aligned with his words. He found investors who shared his vision. He refined his communication until customers lined up to buy. His words had literally created the reality he spoke into existence. But here's where most people sabotage themselves completely. They underestimate the power of their internal dialogue. The conversation you have with yourself all day long is programming your destiny more powerfully than any external influence. If that conversation is filled with doubt, criticism, fear, and limitation, you're programming yourself for struggle regardless of your external efforts. The first transformation begins with eliminating destructive language from your vocabulary completely. Stop saying, "I can't," "I don't know how," "It's impossible," "I'm not smart enough," "I don't have time," "I could never." These phrases are viruses in your mental software, corrupting every program you try to run. Replace destructive language with constructive alternatives. Instead of "I can't," say "I will find a way." Instead of "I don't know how," say "I will learn." Instead of "It's impossible," say "It's challenging but achievable." Instead of "I'm not smart enough," say "I'm developing the knowledge I need." This isn't positive thinking. This is strategic programming. The second transformation involves speaking your goals into existence with absolute conviction. Don't say "I hope to succeed." Say "I am succeeding." Don't say "maybe I'll achieve my dreams." Say "I am achieving my dreams." Don't say "I want to be wealthy." Say "I am building wealth." Present tense, definitive, unwavering. The third transformation requires you to guard your words in conversation with others. Every complaint you voice programs your mind to see more problems. Every limitation you speak reinforces those limitations in your consciousness. Every excuse you verbalize strengthens the excuse-making pattern in your thinking. Instead, speak only words that move you toward your objectives. When asked about challenges, describe them as opportunities for growth. When discussing setbacks, frame them as learning experiences. When talking about your future, speak with such certainty that others begin to believe in your success as much as you do. Here's the turning point that changes everything. The moment you take complete responsibility for the words you speak and think, you take control of the creative force that shapes your experience. You stop being a victim of circumstances and become a creator of circumstances. But understand this clearly. This power comes with absolute responsibility. You can no longer blame your results on external factors when your words are actively creating those results. You can no longer claim that success is beyond your control when your language is either programming you for success or failure every moment of every day. The commitment to conscious language requires constant vigilance. You must become aware of every word before it leaves your mouth and every thought before it takes root in your mind. This isn't easy in a world where negative language is normal, where complaining is socially acceptable, where limitation talk is considered realistic. The practical application begins immediately. For the next 7 days, pay attention to every word you speak and every thought you think. Notice patterns of limitation, doubt, and negativity. Don't judge them. Just notice them. Awareness is the first step to transformation. Then, begin the replacement process. Every time you catch yourself using limiting language, immediately correct it with empowering language. Every time you notice negative self-talk, immediately counter it with positive, constructive alternatives. This isn't about denying reality. This is about creating a better reality through better programming. The ancient king understood this principle when he wrote about the power of the tongue to create life or death. He knew that words carry within them the seeds of destiny. He knew that those who master their language master their lives. Your words today are creating your tomorrow. The question isn't whether you have this power. The question is whether you'll use it consciously or unconsciously, constructively or destructively, to elevate your life or to limit it. The choice is in your mouth, in your mind, in every word you speak from this moment forward. Choose words that build the future you want to live. Choose words that program success into your consciousness. Choose words that align your inner world with your highest aspirations. Your words are waiting to transform your world. The only question is whether you're ready to speak the future you truly want to experience. Pillar 5, persistence. How many dreams have you abandoned just steps away from breakthrough? How many projects have you quit right before the turning point? How many goals have you surrendered to the first sign of serious resistance? The graveyard of unfulfilled potential is filled not with people who lack talent, opportunity, or resources. It's filled with people who lack the one quality that transforms ordinary individuals into extraordinary achievers: persistence. You've felt it, haven't you? That moment when everything seems impossible, when the obstacles appear insurmountable, when every logical voice in your head screams for you to quit. In that moment, you stand at the crossroads that determines whether you join the ranks of the successful or the ranks of the regretful. The choice isn't about talent or luck, it's about persistence. Here's the truth that separates achievers from dreamers. Every significant accomplishment in human history was achieved by someone who was willing to continue when continuation seemed impossible. Every fortune was built by someone who persisted through failures that would have stopped their competitors. Every breakthrough was created by someone who refused to accept defeat as final. Picture a prospector digging for gold in the harsh mountains, day after day, week after week, finding nothing but dirt and rock. Others who started with him have long since given up and returned home to the comfort of certainty. But he continues digging, not because he's certain he'll find gold, but because he's certain he won't find it if he stops. On the day he's ready to quit, his pick strikes the vein that makes him wealthy beyond his wildest dreams. This is the story of every successful person you've ever admired. They persisted one day longer than their circumstances demanded. They got up one more time than they were knocked down. They tried one more approach after their previous methods failed. The difference between success and failure is often measured not in years or months, but in the decision to continue for just one more day. Thomas Edison understood this principle better than perhaps anyone in history. When asked about his failures while inventing the electric light bulb, he famously replied that he hadn't failed. He had simply discovered 10,000 ways that didn't work. Each apparent failure was actually data, bringing him closer to the solution that would illuminate the world. But here's what most people don't understand about persistence. It's not about blind stubbornness or refusing to change course when change is needed. True persistence is intelligent persistence. It's the ability to adapt your methods while maintaining your objective. It's flexibility in approach combined with unwavering commitment to outcome. The first element of intelligent persistence is clarity of purpose. You cannot persist toward vague objectives or unclear goals. Your vision must be so compelling, so clearly defined, so emotionally powerful that it pulls you forward even when progress seems impossible. Without this emotional fuel, persistence becomes mere suffering. The second element is learning from each setback. Persistent people don't just endure failure. They study it, extract lessons from it, and use those lessons to improve their next attempt. They understand that failure isn't the opposite of success. It's the raw material from which success is built. The third element is maintaining physical and emotional reserves. Persistence requires energy, and energy requires renewal. Those who persist longest have learned to pace themselves, to rest without quitting, to recharge without abandoning their objectives. They understand that persistence is a marathon, not a sprint. The fourth element is surrounding yourself with others who understand the value of persistence. The voices you listen to during difficult times will either strengthen your resolve or weaken it. Choose advisors who have achieved what you want to achieve through their own persistent efforts. Here's the story that illustrates the transformative power of persistence. A young writer received rejection after rejection for her first novel. Publishers told her the story was unmarketable, the characters uninteresting, the plot implausible. Lesser individuals would have given up and accepted the judgment of the experts. But she persisted. She refined her craft, improved her story, and continued submitting to new publishers. After 12 rejections, she found one publisher willing to take a chance. That book became an international bestseller, launched a billion-dollar franchise, and transformed her from an unknown, struggling single mother into one of the most successful authors in history. The difference between her and the thousands of equally talented writers who gave up wasn't ability. It was persistence. She was willing to continue when continuation seemed pointless. She was willing to believe in her vision when everyone else had lost faith. But here's the turning point that changes everything. Persistence isn't just about achieving external goals. It's about becoming the kind of person who doesn't quit on themselves. Every time you persist through difficulty, you strengthen something inside yourself that serves you for the rest of your life. Every time you give up, you weaken that same quality. When you develop true persistence, you stop fearing failure because you know failure is temporary. You stop being devastated by setbacks because you know setbacks are information. You stop being discouraged by slow progress because you know that consistent effort, sustained over time, creates compound results that appear miraculous to those who don't understand the principle. The commitment to persistence requires you to redefine your relationship with discomfort. Most people see discomfort as a signal to stop. Persistent people see discomfort as a signal that they're growing, that they're pushing beyond their previous limits, that they're in the process of becoming someone new. The practical application of persistence begins with making it non-negotiable. Before you start any significant endeavor, decide that quitting is not an option. Remove it from your vocabulary and your thinking. When quitting isn't possible, your mind starts looking for solutions instead of exits. Develop the habit of setting interim goals that lead to your ultimate objective. Large goals can seem overwhelming when progress is slow. Smaller milestones provide regular encouragement and maintain momentum during difficult periods. Create accountability systems that make it harder to quit than to continue. Share your goals with people who will hold you accountable. Make commitments that carry consequences if you abandon them. Put your reputation on the line in service of your persistence. Most importantly, remember why you started. In moments of discouragement, reconnect with the original vision that inspired you to begin. That vision hasn't changed. Your circumstances may have become more challenging, but your destination remains the same. The ancient king wrote that the race is not always to the swift, but to those who endure to the end. He understood that persistence is the great equalizer, the force that allows ordinary people to achieve extraordinary results. Your persistence today determines your position tomorrow. The question isn't whether you'll face obstacles. The question is whether you'll persist through them or surrender to them. Every great achievement in your future depends on your willingness to continue when others would quit. Every dream you've ever had is waiting on the other side of your persistence. The only question remaining is whether you're willing to continue long enough to claim what belongs to you. Pillar 6, self-mastery. There's a battle raging inside you right now. On one side stand your highest aspirations, your noblest intentions, your deepest wisdom. On the other side lurk your impulses, your fears, your destructive habits, your emotional reactions. The outcome of this internal war determines everything about your external life. Yet most people never even realize the battle is happening, let alone learn to win it. You've experienced this conflict countless times. You know what you should do, but you do what you want to do. You understand what serves your long-term interests, but you choose what satisfies your immediate desires. You recognize patterns that harm you, but you repeat them anyway. This isn't a character flaw. This is the human condition. But it doesn't have to be your permanent condition. Self-mastery is the ultimate victory. It's more valuable than conquering cities, accumulating wealth, or achieving fame. When you master yourself, you gain control over the one factor that determines everything else in your life. Your thoughts, your emotions, your reactions, your choices. Master these, and you master your destiny. Think of a master martial artist facing an aggressive opponent. The untrained fighter swings wildly, expends energy recklessly, and exhausts himself quickly. The master remains calm, conserves energy, and strikes with precision at the exact moment when it will be most effective. The difference isn't physical strength, it's self-control. This same principle applies to every area of life. The person without self-mastery reacts emotionally to every situation, makes decisions based on temporary feelings, and lives at the mercy of circumstances beyond their control. The person with self-mastery responds thoughtfully, makes decisions based on long-term benefits, and creates circumstances that serve their objectives. But here's what most people misunderstand about self-mastery. They think it means suppressing emotions or denying human nature. They imagine it as a cold, joyless existence where spontaneity dies and passion disappears. This couldn't be further from the truth. Self-mastery isn't about suppression, it's about direction. A river without banks becomes a swamp. A river with banks becomes a powerful force that can light cities and irrigate deserts. Your emotions and impulses are like that river. Without the banks of self-mastery, they dissipate into meaningless, swampy experiences. With the guidance of self-control, they become tremendous forces for achievement and fulfillment. The first aspect of self-mastery is emotional regulation. This doesn't mean never feeling strong emotions. It means choosing your emotional responses based on what serves your objectives rather than what feels automatic. When someone insults you, you can choose anger or you can choose indifference. When you face setbacks, you can choose despair or you can choose determination. The second aspect is impulse control. Every day, you face choices between immediate gratification and long-term benefit. The undisciplined person consistently chooses immediate pleasure and wonders why their life lacks lasting satisfaction. The self-mastered person chooses long-term benefit and enjoys both the pleasure of wise decisions and the results those decisions create. The third aspect is mental discipline. Your mind generates thousands of thoughts every day. Most people become victims of their random mental chatter, following whatever thoughts arise without conscious direction. Self-mastery involves taking control of your mental focus, directing your thoughts toward objectives rather than problems, solutions rather than complaints. The fourth aspect is habit formation. Your daily habits determine your daily results, and your daily results determine your life results. Self-mastery means consciously choosing habits that serve your highest good and consistently executing them regardless of how you feel on any particular day. Here's a story that illustrates the transformative power of self-mastery. Two executives received identical promotions to lead struggling divisions of their companies. Both faced similar challenges: unmotivated employees, declining profits, and pressure from upper management. The first executive, lacking self-mastery, reacted emotionally to every crisis. He blamed his team when projects failed, became angry during difficult meetings, and made impulsive decisions based on frustration rather than strategy. Within a year, his division's performance had worsened, and he was demoted. The second executive, practicing self-mastery, remained calm during crises. She took responsibility for failures, maintained composure during difficult conversations, and made thoughtful decisions based on long-term strategy rather than immediate emotions. Her consistent self-control inspired confidence in her team, attracted support from upper management, and transformed her division into the company's most profitable unit. The difference wasn't skill, experience, or intelligence. It was self-mastery, the ability to control internal responses regardless of external circumstances. But here's the turning point that changes everything. Self-mastery isn't a destination you reach, it's a practice you maintain. Every day, every situation, every interaction offers opportunities to strengthen this capacity or weaken it. Each time you choose self-control over impulse, you become stronger. Each time you choose impulse over self-control, you become weaker. When you commit to developing self-mastery, you join an elite group of individuals who shape their circumstances rather than being shaped by them. You stop being a victim of your emotions and become their master. You stop being controlled by external events and start controlling your responses to them. The commitment to self-mastery requires you to take complete responsibility for your internal state. You can no longer blame your reactions on other people's behavior, your emotions on circumstances beyond your control, or your choices on temporary feelings. This level of responsibility is frightening to most people, but liberating to those ready for true freedom. The practical development of self-mastery begins with awareness. You cannot control what you're not conscious of. Start noticing your emotional patterns, your trigger situations, your default reactions. This isn't self-criticism, this is data collection. Develop the habit of pausing before reacting. When emotions spike, when impulses surge, when automatic responses want to take over, create space for conscious choice. In that space, you can choose responses that serve your objectives rather than satisfy your impulses. Practice delayed gratification in small ways every day. Choose the healthier food option even when you want junk food. Complete important tasks before enjoyable ones. Exercise when you'd rather rest. These small victories strengthen the self-mastery muscle for larger challenges. Create environmental supports for self-control. Remove temptations that test your willpower unnecessarily. Surround yourself with people who exemplify the self-mastery you want to develop. Structure your day to support wise choices rather than depend on momentary motivation. The ancient king wrote that he who rules his own spirit is greater than he who captures a city. He understood that external conquests are temporary, but internal conquests last forever. He knew that the person who masters themselves gains access to power that no external force can take away. Your level of self-mastery determines your level of success in every area of life: relationships, career, health, finances, personal fulfillment. Everything depends on your ability to direct your internal forces toward constructive purposes. The choice is before you. Will you continue to be ruled by impulses, emotions, and reactions that you never consciously chose, or will you claim the power that belongs to you by right of your humanity? The power to direct your own mind, control your own emotions, and choose your own responses regardless of circumstances. Self-mastery awaits your commitment. It will not be easy, but it will be worth everything you invest in achieving it. When you master yourself, you master life itself. Pillar 7, fear of God. There's something operating in your life right now that's more powerful than your will, more constant than your effort, more reliable than your strategies. You feel it in moments of deep quiet, in experiences of profound beauty, in encounters with forces larger than your understanding. Call it universal law, call it cosmic order, call it divine principle. Whatever name you use, your relationship with this reality determines whether your success serves you or destroys you. You've built your plans on the assumption that you control your destiny through personal effort alone. You've pursued achievement as if the universe operates according to your individual agenda. You've measured success by what you can accumulate, control, or command. But there's a dimension of existence that renders all human achievement meaningless if ignored, and infinitely meaningful when honored. The fear of God isn't terror of some distant deity waiting to punish your mistakes. It's reverence for the unchanging principles that govern all existence. It's recognition that you're part of something infinitely larger than yourself, and that your highest success comes through alignment with this greater reality rather than opposition to it. Picture the ancient king at the height of his power. He commanded vast armies, controlled immense wealth, and possessed wisdom that attracted leaders from around the world. Yet in his deepest moments of reflection, he understood that all his achievements were gifts from a source beyond his personal abilities. This understanding didn't diminish his power, it multiplied it. When you operate in harmony with universal principles, you tap into forces that amplify your efforts beyond what individual willpower could achieve. When you violate these principles, you create resistance that undermines even your most skillful endeavors. The difference between sustainable success and temporary achievement lies in understanding this relationship. But here's what confuses most people about this principle. They think it requires abandoning personal responsibility or diminishing human capability. They imagine it means becoming passive or fatalistic about their circumstances. This understanding is completely backwards. True reverence for universal law increases your power by aligning it with forces that support lasting achievement. The first universal principle is integrity. Your word must be your bond, not because someone is watching, but because the universe itself responds to authenticity. When your actions align with your stated values, you create harmony that attracts support from unexpected sources. When you live duplicitously, you create chaos that undermines your efforts regardless of how clever your strategies. The second principle is service. Success that serves only personal gratification becomes its own prison. Success that serves something larger than yourself becomes a source of endless energy and expanding opportunity. The universe supports those who use their gifts to elevate others, and resists those who hoard their blessings for selfish purposes. The third principle is humility. This doesn't mean thinking less of yourself. It means thinking of yourself less. It means recognizing that your talents, opportunities, and achievements are partly gifts to be stewarded rather than possessions to be hoarded. Humility attracts wisdom, while arrogance attracts circumstances that expose your limitations. The fourth principle is gratitude. Appreciation for what you've received opens channels for receiving more. Complaint about your circumstances closes those channels and creates scarcity even in the midst of abundance. The universe responds to the energy you project, and gratitude projects the energy of abundance. The fifth principle is justice. What you do to others, you ultimately do to yourself. The energy you send out returns to you amplified. This isn't mystical thinking, it's practical reality. Treat others with respect, and you create environments where respect flows back to you. Exploit others, and you create environments where you become the target of exploitation. Consider the business leader who built an empire through authentic service to his customers. He could have cut corners, maximized short-term profits, and enriched himself at others' expense. Instead, he chose to create genuine value, treat employees fairly, and build something that served the larger community. His reverence for principles beyond profit didn't limit his success. It created success that lasted for generations. Contrast this with leaders who violated these principles in pursuit of personal gain. They achieved temporary wealth and power, but their achievements crumbled when their methods were exposed. They succeeded against universal principles for a while, but ultimately those principles asserted themselves with compound interest. Here's the turning point that transforms everything. When you align your ambitions with universal principles, you stop fighting against the current of existence and start flowing with it. You stop trying to force outcomes through manipulation and start attracting outcomes through authentic value creation. This alignment doesn't guarantee that life becomes easy. It guarantees that your struggles serve meaningful purposes. It ensures that your victories create lasting value. It promises that your legacy will elevate rather than diminish the world you leave behind. The commitment to this principle requires you to subordinate your immediate desires to timeless values. It demands that you choose long-term integrity over short-term advantage. It asks you to serve purposes larger than your personal comfort or convenience. The practical application begins with examining your current pursuits through the lens of universal principles. Are your methods aligned with integrity? Do your goals serve others as well as yourself? Are you operating from humility or arrogance? Is your energy characterized by gratitude or complaint? Do your dealings with others reflect justice or exploitation? Where you find misalignment, correction is required. Not because punishment awaits violation, but because harmony with universal principles unleashes forces that support your highest good. Not because you must earn divine approval, but because alignment with truth creates conditions for sustainable success. Develop the practice of seeking guidance beyond your personal knowledge. This might come through meditation, prayer, study of wisdom traditions, or consultation with mentors who embody the principles you want to develop. The key is recognizing that your individual perspective, however intelligent, is limited compared to the wisdom available through universal principles. Make decisions based on what serves the highest good, rather than what serves immediate personal gratification. This doesn't mean ignoring your legitimate needs and desires. It means pursuing them through methods that honor universal principles rather than violate them. The ancient king discovered that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. He understood that reverence for something greater than personal ambition opens access to insights and opportunities that self-centered thinking cannot reach. Your relationship with universal principles determines whether your success becomes a blessing or a burden, whether your achievements create lasting value or temporary satisfaction, whether your life serves purposes that outlast your existence or purposes that die with you. The choice is before you. Will you continue pursuing success as if you operate in isolation from universal principles, or will you align your ambitions with forces that support lasting achievement and meaningful legacy? True success isn't about conquering the universe. It's about finding your proper place within it and fulfilling the unique role that only you can play. When you discover this alignment, When you operate from this reverence, you access power that transforms not only your own life, but the lives of everyone your influence touches. The universe is waiting for you to step into this alignment. The question is whether you're ready to exchange the illusion of independent control for the reality of supported achievement through harmony with principles that never change. You stand now at a threshold that most people never recognize, let alone cross. Something has shifted within you during our time together. You can feel it, can't you? That subtle but unmistakable change in how you see yourself, your circumstances, your possibilities. This isn't imagination. This is awakening. The 7 pillars we've explored together aren't just concepts to understand. They are living forces waiting to transform every aspect of your existence. Like seeds planted in fertile soil, they will grow within you, reshaping your thoughts, your decisions, your very identity. But only if you water them with daily practice. Only if you tend them with unwavering commitment. Picture a cathedral being built, stone by stone, over generations. Each day, master craftsmen arrive and place one more stone with perfect precision. They cannot see the completed structure, but they work with absolute faith that their daily contribution serves something magnificent. You are both the craftsman and the cathedral. Each day you apply these principles, you are building something extraordinary within yourself. The ancient king left us more than wisdom. He left us a blueprint for transformation that transcends time, culture, and circumstance. Every choice you make from this moment forward is an opportunity to apply this blueprint, to align yourself with forces that have been creating greatness for 3,000 years. Your journey has only begun. These principles will reveal new depths as you live them, new applications as you face fresh challenges, new power as you grow in wisdom and understanding. If you're ready to continue this exploration, if you're committed to becoming the person these principles can shape you into, then join me on this channel where we dive deeper into the mysteries of human achievement and spiritual alignment. The transformation you seek is not a destination. It is a way of being that unfolds with each conscious choice to live by principles that never fail those who honor them.